from a consumer of those services, I wouldn't say the best we can do. We have to start being open to asking questions before we just pull out our checkbooks or our credit cards and start buying services. Whether that's your domain provider and say, hey, how are you protecting my information? Ask that question. What is it that they're doing? Have they been audited by a third party?
Raffi Jamgotchian, it is good to have you here on Ecomonics. How are you doing today? How are you feeling?
Great. Thank you for having me, Joseph. Appreciate it.
I'm happy to have you here. You have a pretty beautiful setting, I have to say. I'm a big fan of mahogany. It's definitely one color that I would want to paint my background in. Okay, I had to get that out of my system. I apologize. So I'm happy to have you here today because we're going to cover some stuff that we don't get to cover too often on the show. And so this is a great opportunity for us to learn more about something that is, and I'm sure you would support me on this, is arguably an essential component to running a healthy online business, and it's going to be about security. So,
absolutely.
Before we dive in and we explore this space as much as we can in the next hour, first thing we got to do is tell us what you do and what you're up to these days.
Yeah, so Triada Networks is our company. We started it in 2008. We help small businesses with their IT needs, but more importantly, how to reduce risk around cybersecurity and other things so that their businesses can be more resilient to events that take place, and they will take place. It's not a matter of if, but when.
And you've seen your fair share of whens, I imagine.
I've seen a fair share of my whens. Yes, certainly. It's probably one of the reasons why I have so many gray hairs.
Well, speaking as someone, I'm not keeping track or anything, but the 11 that I have so far are they've got to account for something, and I haven't had my when yet, so there's plenty of reasons why they happen. So it started in 2008, and so that's been you've definitely been in this for a fair amount of time, and the way I like to ask the question about agencies and services such as Triada Networks is when it was starting, what problem were you identifying in specific that was going unsolved? Imagining that there are other businesses in the space in that time.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, we're based right outside New York City, and you can shake a stick and you'll hit another IT or cybersecurity firm here. So there's definitely plenty of people doing what we're doing at various levels. So prior to 2008, I was working at an investment firm in cybersecurity, and in the downfall of the financial crisis in the middle of that in 2008, a number of folks started breaking off of these large institutions and starting their own investment funds. And many of them were folks that I had been working with, and they came out to us and say, hey, we're starting our own fund. We have no clue what to do when it comes to protecting ourselves and making sure our businesses are compliant with regulations. And that's how we started. That was the birth of Triada. It was to really fulfill that need of initially those investment firms. And then we expanded from there. I mean, we focus primarily on financial services companies, but we're not exclusive to that. We have a number of companies that are both in the retail and the B2B e-commerce space. So it ends up becoming a kind of a holistic view of really helping small companies that don't have the staff, don't have the expertise to really put things in place to make their risk go down.
Now, I've been trying my way as an entrepreneur for quite some time in different respects. At the very, very, very beginning, when I would try to do stuff online, it was in arts, just trying to set up my own webcomic, and I would use GoDaddy both for the domain and the web hosting, and I still use them for some services to this day, but I've expanded outwards, and there was something that stuck out to me. Because they would do their routine phone calls every, 6 months or something like that, just to check in and see how we're doing, see what upgrades we need. And one of these conversations, the one that stuck out the most, is when they were saying that I had to pay for a security upgrade. And it was the first time that they had told me about this. And I remember thinking, well, hold on a second, I wasn't paying for this before. And then all of a sudden, it's this added cost now. And he says, well, times are changing, a lot more things are going online, so this is becoming a larger expense. And I walked away from that wondering, And I'm still wondering to this day, which brings me to the question that I have for you is, so, we have our domain providers, you have the service providers, say like Shopify, for instance, and this is Shopify country, is from your perspective, how much responsibility are these service providers supposed to be taking in providing security for the customers compared to how much responsibility the user, such as myself, should be taking?
Yeah, that's an awesome question.
Thank you. I worked
And
hard
in
on it.
fact, if anything, the past couple weeks have, or even the last few months have taught us is that nobody in our supply chains are at immune to getting breached, whether that's a provider like Shopify or GoDaddy or what have you. And although most of the breaches are due to somebody uh, effectively letting the bad actor in, it's not exclusive to that. So let's take the most recent one was only a week ago with a company called Kaseya. So with Kaseya, they are a provider of software that is used by um, internal IT teams as well as companies like ourselves. And they weren't necessarily breached, but a flaw in their software allowed an attacker in. One of the effects of that was, in Europe, there was a point of sale vendor that was using that tool, and the result of that, 800 stores were shut down. Um, the so is it the fault of the provider? Is it the fault of the software vendor? Is it the fault of it? It's really nobody. These are all victims of the same problem. We all can do things that improve ourselves. So from a consumer of those services, the I wouldn't say the best we can do. We have to start being open to asking questions before we just pull out our checkbooks or our credit cards and start buying services. Whether that's your domain provider, and say, hey, how are you protecting my information? Ask that question. What is it that they're doing? Have they been audited by a third party? When was the last time you had a security flaw, and how fast did you patch it? These are all legitimate questions. You're going to be spending your hard-earned money on these services. They should be giving you that information. So that's at least the first place to start. Then from your own ability to work with these companies, you have a login with GoDaddy. GoDaddy does a decent job about protecting your identity and your login information through support pins and things like that. But they all can do better. Turn on multi-factor wherever you can, which means when you log in, you get a token code, either a pop-up on your phone or a text message, which is not as good, but it's better than nothing. This way, if somebody does get a copy of your password, that you at least will see if somebody's trying to get in from another location and prevent that. So these are all little bits that we can start doing to not only protect ourselves, but as well protect our clients and our clients' data.
Yeah, and I think a lot of it also has to do with getting into good habit routines, not dissimilar to brushing your teeth and flossing and using mouthwash. So I think over time people have to be conditioned to take more of these precautions. So not too long ago, there was credit card fraud on my account, and I noticed it because my eyes are glued to the phone throughout most of the day. So I look at my phone. I was like, wait a minute, I didn't buy anything at Walmart lately. So I try to deal with it right away, and it's canceled. And the silver lining in it is that it was a great way to cancel a bunch of subscriptions, like the ones that I actually wanted to continue. I moved on to the new credit card, and then a bunch of other ones like, hey, we haven't heard from you in a while. Don't you want your next electric toothbrush? I'm like, actually, no, I still have 6 in storage. So I'm actually pretty good. So that one actually worked out pretty well for me. But I still don't want to deal with it again. And what I started doing was, I was saying, okay, where do they get me? Maybe they got me online through putting in my information. So I really need to think about, where I make these purchases, which I guess ties into some of the issues that customers have is that they want to go on to smaller businesses. They want to go on the Shopify stores and they want to make these purchases, but they don't have that same peace of mind. And I think that there's this, at least this minimal requirement for it to say, trust and security and compliance and all of that. But we see that basically every time. And so the other thing I tried to do physically was like every time I pull up my credit cards to make a purchase in person, I would hide it. Like I would keep it close to my chest, and just in case somebody was happening to get the visual of it. And I do that to this day. So that's just like, unfortunately, it was like a too late situation. The habits had to come after the fact. So there's a bunch of challenges here. And so the first one that I want to get to above all else is how you've been able to, get people into these good conditions, into these good habits before they've had to learn the hard way.
Yeah, that's a tricky one. Alarm sales go up after house break-ins, right? It's either your house or it's your neighbor's house, and that's sometimes hard. Unfortunately, you have a hard lesson sometimes. But each one of these things is a lesson. You may think you're doing everything correct, and then something else happens, and you find another piece of your armor that you need to patch up a little bit. And every time you do this, it's a learning, Larry. And it's how it's having the things in place to be able to identify that you had an issue, and then put the process in place on how to recover from that issue. All those things are as equally important as preventing from the issue from happening to begin with. I had the same issue as you did. I think I traced it back to a gas station that nabbed my card. Then we tried to spend money on things at Walmart, and then we were able
I get
to
with the Walmart.
block it.
It's like the only place that has
It's easy.
PS5s, I guess.
Yeah, because they can go in and out real quickly. They do a quick charge. If it goes through, if it works, then they try something bigger like a TV. That's usually the pattern. Liquor stores is another one that seems to at least occur to my when my cards get dinged. Most recently, it happened to my wife. We were on vacation at the time. All of a sudden, we get a call from Capital One saying, "Hey, we need some more information for opening up your credit card." My wife was not applying to Capital One for a credit card. Then we got home, and there was a debit card from a credit union sitting in our house. So somebody had opened up a bank account, actually put money in my wife's name, so that they could do whatever. So it happens, and it's very easy to happen. And we forget all the different times that we lose track of when we submit something, a piece of paper, a form in a store. It seems to happen more often in the physical world than the online world, honestly. But obviously, the online world is getting is as easy to commit fraud. The fraud part is so in the networking world, we what we do is we segment processes, and we segment things so that they don't affect each other. And what we did in our own business, for example, when it came to credit cards, is we started splitting the credit cards up. So we had multiple credit cards. We used some things for our monthly. I wouldn't have had the same experience you did, unfortunately. We separated our monthly expenses from our incidentals. This way, if our incidental card, which was out in the wild, gets dinged, we didn't have to go through every vendor and have to reset what accounts were being used. We do the same thing in the online world. We do the same thing when it comes to cybersecurity. We compartmentalize so that it doesn't affect the rest of the business. When a submarine has a leak, they're able to close the doors around that leak so that the submarine can still be viable. And the business is the same idea. This way, the name of the game is really resilience, not necessarily complete and utter prevention, because that's not possible.
Yeah, I mean it seems like it's an arms race, and that no matter what security protocols can be in place, the bad actors would just find some other way to subvert it, and then it goes on indefinitely. At least
just don't be an easy target.
Yeah. Well, I have to say, so there was one. So one method there that you mentioned, expenses versus incidentals, is I think a great takeaway, because my conventional wisdom, even going into this conversation, is to, you have one card separate for business expenses, but then you have another card separate for personal expenses. But it never really occurred to me that a lot of these subscriptions can be done on a single card, and that card never has to leave the house. It just stays in a drawer. It's doing its job, no problem. And then something else, a little closer to, if I may, a little closer to a burner card, something that, okay, like you said, if it does get lost, somebody else takes it, somebody gets a photo of it, someone was a little bit too close to me behind me when I'm ordering coffee. Okay, all of a sudden it goes, and then all of a sudden we don't have all of these, all this other mess that we have to pick up. I also have to say there's a bit of a reality check there, because hearing from your perspective and the incidents that have affected you and affected your wife, no one's really immune from this. I mean, you are in security, you are in IT.
No doubt.
Everybody gets hit.
That's my point.
Yeah,
that's exactly my point. We can do a lot of things and throw up a lot of software and tools and monitoring and what have you, but at the end of the day, we still have to connect to the rest of the world with these things, whether it's credit cards, bank information, etc. Keeping tabs on your credit statements, keeping tabs on your own account information. We recommend everybody should lock their credit reports with the credit bureaus to ensure that less. And again, so here was a mistake on our end, right? I had done that for my own account, but we hadn't done that for my wife, and so and that's where the flaw was in our armament, so to speak. And so you learn from that, and you make adjustments, and you move forward.
We covered some of these expenses versus incidentals, multi-factor authentication. You said with the credit bureau, and that was all tying into one of the questions I wanted to make sure I asked, which is the at least basics, guidelines, advice that we recommend. In service to my audience, to the average Shopify seller, what the business owner should be doing. But I think also too, what the online user as well should also be bearing in mind. And you don't have to retread the ones that you said, but I also wanted to make sure that we covered any other important ones too.
Yeah, no, and my son has an online shop as well. So we talk about this a lot. You need to make a couple things. If you're connecting into sensitive accounts like your bank, and don't do it in the public. It's not just shoulder surfing, somebody looking over your shoulder, looking at what you're doing, but you could be in a coffee shop and somebody could be snooping on your traffic or tricking you to go into another wireless access point that they've stood up and not the one that you expect to connect to. So, do those things from home. Use a VPN. I use a VPN wherever I am, including in my own office. My internet service provider doesn't need to know what websites I'm going to. They obviously want to monetize that aspect of it. That's how they keep their costs down. But there's no reason for them to need to know all those connections. So I use a reputable VPN provider. Certainly use different passwords for your accounts. Your bank account should not be your LinkedIn account, should not be your Shopify account. Make those passwords different and make them long and very hard to guess. And if it's hard to remember for you, that's good. Don't write it down, put it in a password manager, put it in a password vault. That way, that's you don't even have to think about what the password is, and you leak it out somewhere, reuse it. Password stuffing is one of the major ways that e-commerce sites get broken into, other than security flaws. Make sure if you're running your own, if you're not using a service provider like Shopify and you're running your own Magento site or WordPress site or something like that, you got to keep it up to date. So that's on you. You have to make sure that all the patches are installed, that all the updates are, and you're following the best practices when it comes to managing a server. And if you don't have the skill set to do that and can't afford to hire somebody, it's a lot cheaper to go to a service provider like Shopify and have that stood up for yourself rather than dealing with it yourself. So that's my my 2 cents there. Um, and then we talked about multi-factor authentication. Update, put that in everywhere you can. Your bank, your online accounts, your email. Again, your email is one of these things where you're like, oh, I don't have any information that's important in my email. But when you go to a website, you need to reset your password. Where does that reset go to? And most of the time, it goes to your email. So if somebody gets a hold of your email account, chances are they're going to be able to get into your other accounts too. So it's very important to make sure you protect your email account as well. And then have an alternative form. If you're doing big ticket transactions and people are wiring money around and you're talking to your suppliers, make sure that if somebody's asking you to wire to a different bank account than you normally do, we see this all the time. These wire fraud, unfortunately, and it's not a technical thing. It's somebody sends an email or somehow hooks themselves into the email conversation. And next thing you know, you either wired money to the wrong bank account or your client wired money to the wrong bank account, and now you're out thousands of dollars. So those are all the different things, telltale things to watch out for.
Yeah, one thing you mentioned is making passwords difficult to even for us to remember. I do once in a while, we'll get those random passwords generated where it's just a random sequence of numbers and letters. I'm going to use that one. It's password stuffing. I hadn't heard of this one before. If I were to guess, not that I have to, but I'm going to anyways, which is that they have an AI and that it just starts randomly trying as many passwords as it can, and it's doing hundreds of thousands of calculations, so much so that maybe in a day or two it'll crack the code. Is that how close was I?
Yeah, so that's more like actually cracking a password. If they have say you've gotten a password database and it's encrypted and you're trying to break it, that's a lot harder to do. But typically what is done is that a malicious actor will get a database of passwords from a breach, public breach. These are unfortunately easy to obtain and get. And then they either buy or free, and then they will use that against other sites. So, which is why you don't want to reuse your password. So they'll get your downloads. Let's say LinkedIn was breached a couple of years ago, and so there was millions of records on LinkedIn, and very common with people would use the LinkedIn passwords also to their office email, and now they have access to your office email as well. So that's what I mean by password stuffing or credential stuffing. So that's the process of doing that. Cracking passwords is a longer and harder process, and most malicious actors are going to take the easiest way in. Password cracking is easy when it's short. So that's why you try to make it as passwords as long as possible.
So for my audience, I don't bring up my other projects very often, but it's actually relevant in this case. But it's like a hobby podcast that I do once in a blue moon. And I spoke to somebody who he works in IT. He was speaking anonymously, so he didn't want to say what company he works for. But he had said that one day he gets a phone call from his boss, and their company was hacked. Whole thing was shut down, and the sales staff had to keep the business going manually. So much so that I think they brought back the old credit card machines where you have to swipe it, and so I mean that happens. That wasn't the shocking part. The shocking part was when he described the hackers. I think for a lot of people, when they think hackers, they think somebody is just sitting in their basement and they got the Matrix background going on, and they're wearing the blue light glasses because they do care about their health. And I suppose that's true, but the scope of it was shocking to me. He had said that they had actually called the hackers on the phone, and they had a customer service agent pick up, and it's like a whole agency, and they're picking up all of these different people that, it's a big business, and it took place, I believe, in Russia. And he had also mentioned that there was another agency that was just recently raided by the mob, and they all got gunned down. So there's a lot that goes on here. And I
Yeah.
bring this up because I would love to know if you can add to this picture in any way, if there's anything along these lines that has crossed your radar in regards to just the magnitude of what these bad actors are up to.
Yeah, they are. They look like legitimate organizations from the outside. They have company outings. They do social skills with each other. They have different departments. Customer service is actually the big thing. Particularly with these ransomware actors, they have great customer service because they want them to get paid. They want to help you separate you from your money. So they want to make it as easy as possible. So they're there to help you. Sometimes they'll even turn around and say, hey, by the way, now that we got paid, here's some words of advice on how to prevent this from happening again. So they'll actually give you some security tips at the end of it. But yeah, they're it's big business, and many of them run around in countries that do not extradite to the West, and are the local governments are turn a blind eye because they don't attack their own folks. In fact, many of using the Russian gang example, REvil has been one of the ones that has been in the news a lot lately. They were responsible for the CompTIA hack we talked about earlier. They were responsible for the Colonial Pipeline hack that happened a few months back. It's an affiliate program, just like on online services, right? They're not actually doing the hacking. They provide the software. The affiliate actually breaks into the company. They deploy the REvil software. REvil collects the money and then pays the affiliate a percentage of for as like a finder's fee. And that's how they all make money. So they have a robust system of moving money around and then now with this affiliate business, a way to really expand without necessarily having to do that much more sales, so to speak. So they follow the same business practices that many of us do. They also have sometimes the same flaws that we do. For example, in the Colonial Pipeline, the affiliate in that case was a little bit less mature, and as a result of that, they were able to nab the money back that was taken by the affiliate, but not from the initial REvil gang. They got their payday from that one. So there's a lot of that. And the one thing that they do is that if you deploy their malware on a company that has a Russian keyboard, it's not going to run because they see, okay, this is potentially someone in my home country. If I start hitting on my own folks, then that's when the police will start knocking on the door, and they're a little bit less nice than we are when it comes to those kind of bad actors when they're caught.
Before you even go to that question chambered, I think one thing that surprises a lot of people is when they hear that a pipeline was hacked, just because usually when we think of things that are hacked, we think computers, we think technology. And I couldn't even guess like how exactly a pipeline gets hacked. And so as much as I'd love to hear about that one in specific, I think in a broader perspective, I'm really fascinated by what are things that people don't expect to be hacked that end up getting hacked.
Yeah, great question. When it comes to anything with a computer or anything that's on the internet or may have connected to something that was also on the internet, any of those things are an open game. So just to make this too long. In the case of the Colonial Pipeline, their actual business systems were hacked, not the actual pipeline. The pipeline shut down because they couldn't bill. So if they couldn't bill for the oil that they were selling, they weren't delivering the oil. They shut the oil down. However, in the case of the water treatment plant in Tampa, that was a computer that was hacked that controlled different chemicals that went into the water. We've had similar things when it came to power systems. The Russians broke into the power systems in the Ukraine to shut down a lot of the power grid. All these things are controlled by computers, and in many cases, they're connected online, either directly or indirectly. Our own, our own government uses the same way to break into, other firms as well. Stuxnet years ago was here's a nuclear enrichment plant in Iran that was not connected at all to the outside world in any way. How was that hacked? Dropping USB sticks. So somebody grabbed a USB stick, plugged into a computer, and inside that network, they call it air gap network because it's not physically connected to something else. And now things go bad. Those things can happen to us too. When you're walking around your next trade show and you're picking up USB sticks, you got to be careful what's on there. So you never know what, and it may not be the fault of the company that's distributing them. It could be the back end provider that's selling the tchotchke or whatever. So there's lots of ways that folks can do these things, and not to make everybody. I want to make everyone a little bit more paranoid, not crazy paranoid, just to make sure that they follow. But that's how they get into anything with a computing device. So in the case of that point of sale systems get broken into all the time, whether they're a computer or just have some sort of processing on it. That's a common attack vector now, because they're usually smaller computers. They have less power. They're less powerful. You can't run robust security products on it, even if you wanted to. And frequently they're, put out in the field and never updated. Medical devices are notoriously for having problems because of that, because you buy this $1 million machine, it's running software from 10 years ago. You're not going to spend another $1 million just to upgrade the version of Windows on.
Yeah, I think a lot of businesses they struggle with this because I guess they don't factor it into their business model. It's hard enough. You have overhead, you have product, you have your staff, you have incidentals, which recency bias in full effect is a term that I'm now using. And so factoring security into this, is there? I want to think that it's like case by case or industry by industry, but seeing as how everyone's a target, I don't know how true that is. But what is percentage-wise the ideal budget that a company is putting into? And I'll put it together: IT and security.
Yeah. So if you're looking at, of course, the consultant answer is it depends. It doesn't depend on I would say mostly two factors. One is size of the firm in terms of revenue, as well as the industry. And why the size matters, and that you can think that, all right, well, size percentage will take care of the size, right? Larger firms can spend a little bit less on security to get the same kind of benefits. But again, also industry also matters a lot too. The financial world, because we have the most experience there, it tends to be higher. Mostly because the numbers that they're dealing with are much, much larger. It's easier to justify to spend $5 to protect a $50 item versus spend $70 to protect a $10 item. So you have to be a little bit pragmatic about what your approach is there. But the industry norm right now, and it might be going up after this past year or so, it tends to be between 4 and 7% of gross revenue is about where security should be. So if you're a $1 million company, you should be thinking about $70,000 in total IT and security as well. So that's kind of that's a rough place to start, at least. And then from that, you have to decide what to spend on, right? So it's good to have a number in your head, but it's also important to be pragmatic about where you invest in your security, where you need to invest in your security and your IT stack as well.
This next question that I had, this is psychology based. And you have to forgive me, I don't know really how fair of a question it is, but I'm just going to give it a try anyways, because we're speaking about the fact that some of these companies have even a company culture, I lost it as soon as they said that they do company outings, they do team building, and it's like they probably have like an HR department where it says, yeah, so we're actually getting some harassment reports from you. It's like harassment in this industry. And I'm wondering if you've picked up any insights in regards to the psychology of what these bad actors get up to, because they're bad actors, and I have no problem saying that. And yet, what you've described are many things that we consider normal, that many companies do. So, is there anything that we've learned about what is their lot in life, why they're driven into this, and why they can't get into textiles?
Yeah, it's so it's interesting, and I didn't dive into this too much in my learnings about it, but I've done a decent amount of reading about it, and most of the time it's yeah, and obviously you can see where where in the world these things shape, and we had for a long time we had these Nigerian print scams, right? Somebody sending an email trying to get hey, my uncle died and I need to get money out and that kind of thing. So the difference is the Nigerian government really cracked down heavily on that. It actually become one of the examples of how you can police your own backyard. Whereas in many parts of the Eastern Bloc, that hasn't been the case. Whether it's any country, Russia, Ukraine, Romania, et cetera. So it comes all over, but not everywhere. You have a country like Estonia, very small, came from the same lot in life that all these other countries did, but they pushed forward from a country and industry to really push their technology forward, and they became a very technology almost a technical powerhouse for the size of the country that they are. These folks don't have a lot of opportunities, and so whether they were going to do this or some other criminal activity is hard to say. But it's easy pickings. They have they have the immunity from their local governments, their local police, and so then kind of that opens up good people do bad things when there are no limits to their imaginations, and there are no limits to what people will bear on them. And so as a result of that, they do these things. And there we are now. We deal with that across the board. I would think that probably in some of these gangs, many of the people that work there are, they're like, well, I'm not doing anything. It's a faceless enemy, right? It's those people over there that have money, or and their view of us is very, very skewed, and as a result of that. So why not get a piece of that? Not understanding necessarily what the damage that they do. And maybe it's very possible that many of the people in the company don't even know that they're doing bad things, that they're just, hey, they just work for this company that they go to work every day, and they answer phone calls and help people do things, and what have you. Same thing with these scammers that call. I think they know that they're doing things are bad because they hang up on me when I play games with them. But you get these calls saying, I'm calling from the FBI. It's a thick accent, and they're saying we're going to come arrest you and what have you, and they want your social security number over the phone. And those folks typically, they know, but that's what their lot in life is. They're getting paid 50 cents an hour or whatever to do this because they can't get a different job.
And I guess one thing to add on to it, and I'm not trying to criticize the U.S. Even though here in Canada, I consider Canada as basically the United States, except wearing a helmet. So we're in this together. And I think what they see is in the West is, I think they see a lot of decadence, and I think it actually gets to the point where they feel like we deserve to be punished. And so what they're doing is causing us harm, and they actually feel like it's justified to that extent.
I think that's probably a little bit to that. But if you look at some of particularly the ownership or the upper echelon of these gangs, these are the folks that are running, driving gold Bugattis and have tigers as pets and stuff. So I'm not sure if the decadence, the decadence kind of goes both ways in many cases.
That's valid. I appreciate your take on that. Okay, so this next one, we're going back to the relationship between IT and security, and we've definitely been exploring this thread throughout it. And I just want to make sure that we hammer this home, just to make sure that there's any key points we have to do that we do it. So when people think security, they think protecting from threats, and when they think IT, I'm having a hard time thinking of an equivalent way to simplify it, even if it's not exactly fair. So when we talk about the relationship between the two, how much is IT supporting the security of a company?
Yeah, it's a great question. So IT and security is really kind of a Venn diagram. There's a little bit of overlap in the middle where they meet. We actually look at it a little bit differently in the sense that IT tends to be a part of the company that provides the business a way to be more efficient, move forward, etc. Whereas security is really there to reduce risk, ensure things are done in the right way. And so then parts of, as a result of that, because there's a technology overlap there usually is there's some issue with that. In a smaller organization, it's very common to see these two functions together. In a larger organization, in fact, it's mostly recommended that these are independent. But even the biggest companies, the chief information security officer will report to the chief information officer. So, take that for what it's worth. So what ends up happening in a common scenario, like for example, our company, like we support companies that have their own IT, or they have another company that is handling their IT. And then we become kind of almost a check and balance to that. And then if we see something that we need ultimately get fixed, we provide that information for the IT staff to actually operationalize it. So you can think about IT being the operational arm of security in some ways, if you're looking at it from that point of view. But for us, it's a little bit of offense and a little bit of defense in the same team. When the way we go about it, because there are companies that say, look, I'm pure security, we're not touching IT, we're going to work with IT companies and what have you, and we play in that game. But we're not exclusive to that, because most of our companies are the companies that we work with. They're so small that having two completely different organizations running this aspect of it doesn't. My colleagues would say I'm wrong here. So there's different ways to skin that if you do it the right way. What happens is that if you look at the lowest, I don't want to say lowest being the from a pejorative point of view, but if you look at the, let's say, entry level rung of positions in both locations, right? One on the IT side, it might be the help desk. On the security side, it would be a security analyst. So if you look at these two positions, what's the purpose of a help desk person? A help desk person is to help the employee or the person that needs help to do what they need to do to get their work done. That's their job. So what's the barrier that's stopping you? I'm going to open up that barrier. Security analyst almost has the opposite position. You're trying to get your thing done and something's stopping you. There's a reason why that something is stopping you. And having that conversation there, like what's going on? Is this really legitimate? Things like that. The first question isn't, yeah, let me do this for you, or let me help you out. The first question is, what's going on here? Having that personality, there's a little bit of a personality conflict from an individual personnel point of view. But ultimately, they're working to do the same thing. The company can't move forward if they don't have security. Company can't move forward if they don't have the proper IT in place. So as a company, we like working in in being able to engage so that security also becomes a little bit of an enabler and say, look, let's do this. Let's keep you secure, keep your risk down, but let's do it in a pragmatic way and allow you to still move forward with your business and get to your goals.
In your line of work, do you experience the equivalent of an emergency? I get the sense that you do. Like, there are situations where someone is calling you and they're in a panic and you have to deal with things right away. Do you encounter that, or are you largely successful in your preventative measures?
I'd be afraid to say that we've been largely successful in our preventative measures, because as soon as I say that, something else is going to happen. I'm going to say we do a fair amount to try to prevent things. From the cost of recovery is much higher than the cost of prevention. So we try to expend as much as we humanly can for preventative and detective. So those are two different things. One is stopping it in tracks. The other one is identifying something happening when it's actually in the process of happening. So we do spend a fair amount of resources in those two, and we have been, knock on wood, successful in that sense. However, there is going to be a bleeding neck. There is going to be hair on fire, and those things happen. Whether it's coming in from somebody that currently isn't under our protective dome, or it's something that has fallen outside of our protective dome. Somebody who was doing work on their personal computer and lost data, didn't have the right, protections in place, or for some reason something got missed. We're all human; things happen, things get missed, and somebody gets dinged. How do you contain that, and how do you respond to that? Those are the key parts of doing that. And what we do is we actually we socialize that a lot. We sit down as a team. We talk about, okay, what are some of the threats we've seen out in the wild? What are the things that our clients are talking about? What potentially can we think about in the future that could happen? And what would we do if this happens? And then we document it. Because what you don't want to do in a panic is trying to figure out what you have to do. That's the last thing that you want to be able to have a process that you can follow with, some leeway, obviously, because every event is a little bit different. But at least if you have a process to follow, you don't have to panic to try to think about what that process is, because the last thing you can think clearly is in a stressful situation.
Just to draw a layman's equivalent to that, it's the same thing as fire drills, is knowing what to do in a fire and knowing what to do, where the fire extinguisher is, where the exits are, and stuff along those lines.
Yeah, it's why we do fire drills, right? It's the same idea. This is why we do disaster recovery tests, with making sure our backups are in place and that we test our backups. This is why we do these tabletop exercises, like, hey, if this system was breached today, and we do it for our own internal stuff. If the same thing that happened to CompTIA clients this past week happened to us with our systems that we use, what would we do? And so we have that conversation, and then we document it in this way. It's like, all right, so where are gaps in our current processes? Does it make fiscal and business sense to plug up that hole? You can't, cars come with a spare tire. They come with one spare tire. They're not really meant to have a two tire blowout, right? So you make those decisions to make to do the pragmatic things to protect yourselves for the greatest amount of risk as you can.
So you mentioned data and backing things up, and I think that's another bit that even sellers just starting out might not take into account. And so, real quick, are there any services or websites, entry level, that people can go to understand how to back things up, or is it as straightforward as getting the data, downloading it, saving it onto an external hard drive, and just hanging on to it? Then we can upload it later if we have to.
Yeah, I mean, when it comes to data, this is now like a 25-year thing, so this isn't anything new. But it's definitely not my idea. It's something that I've heard, and I've used it as kind of our own guideline. Is that if the data doesn't exist in three places, it doesn't exist, and that's three different places. That's the data that you're using. so on your computer or whatever, the backup of that data that could be next to you, it could be USB drive. And then the third place, another copy of that data not in your location. That could be in a physical vault someplace else. In the old days, we used to spin, this is my gray hair kicks in. We used to back up the tape and we take those tapes and put it in a lockbox and ship them off site to another location. Or these days, and you just ship it to the cloud. So there's a reason why we have those three. Why not just pack up to the cloud? Well, it might be faster to recover if you have a local copy of that. But if you just have a local copy of that, and you have a USB drive that's connected to your machine all the time, your backup's going to get dinged too. The actors are smart enough that they're not only going to destroy your local machine, but they're going to destroy your backups too if they can. So having a disconnected backup is critical. If you're just starting out and your data is on your, like my son, he's got one computer, he has his drawings, his art, whatever that he's put together for his designs. He has a copy on his computer. He has a copy on a shared cloud drive thing, like a Dropbox kind of thing. And then he has a secondary backup that's offside using something like could be something as simple as a Crash Plan or a Carbonite or whatever. You can use any of them. Any of those are just fine for a beginner for starting out. If you have a bigger operation, you may want to do bigger processes. But look at the key. There are two key metrics that you need to look at. How much data can I lose? How much data can I afford to lose in time? And then the second one is, how long will it take for me to recover? So these are the two questions that we ask every client. They start with, we want all the data, 1 second, and we want it available right away. And that's doable, but that costs a lot of money to do. So what we do in that sense is that we say, all right, so let's now pull out the wallet and say, that's going to cost probably a lot higher than the data that you're protecting or that you're willing to spend. So let's take it. What's a realistic? Well, if I lose 4 hours of work and it takes a day, or it takes 12 hours, or it takes 8 hours to recover, then that's a reasonable amount. Okay, so now we have something to work with in terms of figuring out budget for that. Some people are like, yeah, my data is like, if I lose a day's worth of work and it takes a week to run out, then taking a USB drive that you copy, you throw in a safe, or you take it off site, that might be fine. But I would think that most people are probably somewhere in between. And once they figure that out, they can decide how much they can spend on doing that backup. But that's a critical piece. If you're looking at anything, if you're not doing the bare minimum, back up your data. Even though in terms of ransomware, just recovering the data is not necessarily enough nowadays. They're extorting us now. They're saying, hey, we have your data, we're going to release it. And if it's not something that is sensitive that you have to pay the ransom to prevent that from happening, not that I'm saying that you should pay the ransom or not. That's between you and your insurance company. But at the very least, you have your information to get back up and running quicker.
And one thing that's been sticking out to me as we're describing this, because we're also talking about companies and employees working remotely. And I think one thing that's really made a big difference in the last year is the prevalence of working remote. Full disclosure, I work remote. And from your point of view, I'm guessing that it's made the situation a lot harder, because now you have everybody in their own home and there's not a standard operating procedure across everybody's devices. And have you encountered this issue personally with whom you're working with?
Absolutely. I mean, when the pandemic first hit, and we had most of our clients were ready to be able to work from home. Some were not because of just the way they were structured, but many were. That was very common for someone to take computer home and work from it or connect from a different location. What was what was new was everybody doing it at the same time. And so now that's one aspect of it. The other aspect of it is now dealing with from a not only security point of view, but from a technology point of view, everybody's own bandwidth issues, right? You have kids in your building that are connecting into school at the same time that you're trying to work, at the same time as somebody else. Kids playing Xbox while they're at school. My own kids, for example. So those are the things that you were having to deal with, and it became an education aspect for us, for our clients. Now, we weren't going to be able to get into every house, segment their network so their business was separate from their personal environment. That wasn't doable. So we did the best we can to make sure that their work-related activity was as segmented away from their personal activity as possible. We recommended not using personal devices to connect into the office wherever we could. That in the beginning, that was tricky because it was very hard to get equipment. Companies didn't have laptops, and laptop orders were rare. So we had to do our best again around that. The problem ends up being is that as the pandemic raced on and we were able to resolve these questions quickly, many did not. Many did not say, things are fine the way they are, or they're working. And this is more of the IT mindset. Things are working, I'll leave it alone, versus going back and rethinking about, all right, so now that I have time, now that the rush is out the door, that I got everybody up and running, because that was the, job number one is the business has to run. Job number two is, all right, now how do we reduce the risks associated with that business and say, all right, here are some areas that we need to clean up with. And that was trickier to do over the course of this past year. But I think it put us and our clients in a better state because of that. So it's okay sometimes to open the door a little bit in order to get your job done. But sometimes you have to rethink that. And that's not always easy to do, but you have to remind yourself, like, all right, do I still need this open? Is there something that we can do to protect ourselves? But yeah, there's always, pragmatic things you can do to help yourself. VPN is a clear one. There are other products or buzzwords that are out there that kind of mimic the kind of a newer way of doing VPNs for folks to get access to information. Most of our companies, a lot of them are either all in cloud or half in cloud. So, you're not VPNing back into the office now anymore to get your information. You're still accessing it the same way you did when you were in the office. It's all online. So now that you're not in the protection of the company bubble anymore, you're kind of out here. How do we protect out of that? Now there's new tools and ways to do that. So as a result of that, we're constantly evaluating the tactics and the frameworks that we use to help roll things out. So we follow a framework. That framework is ever evolving, and we reevaluate that framework against all our customers every quarter to see if there's anything that we need to adjust along the way.
We're getting close to our hour mark. We're just a few minutes away, and I've jotted down a lot of notes today. By the way, I think there's a lot of really great practical information here, and as I said at the beginning of the episode, I'll say again to start tying this up is, it's so important, and yet even if we just look at the ratio of how many times we have this kind of conversation versus how many times I have conversations with Shopify sellers, I think that this is the kind of thing that we really do need to know more about. I have one more, well, not counting the wrap-up question, but the last question that I wanted to ask you is purely speculative, and I'm really asking you more for the fun of it, but whatever. Do you see an end game between the arms race between security and the bad actors? Is this an eternal struggle like the battle between light and dark, or is it possible that the bad actors could be thwarted once and for all?
I mean, we have to make it as hard as possible, right? There's no way in the hearts of men doing bad things for their own personal gain. I don't think that started from the dawn of time. I don't know if that's not going to stop in any way. that I can see. So I'm not going to speculate on that eventuality. However, there are some structural things that we can make it extremely difficult to do, both from a technical point of view, but also potentially from a policy and governmental point of view. I'm not a massive believer in regulation and things like that. I think sometimes it hinders our businesses from moving forward at the expense of trying to protect us from certain things. But there's a lot of things that we can do. One is, um, you know, unlike many other countries, because of the structure of the U.S., as a federal system, every state does their own thing. That's not necessarily a bad thing, but when it comes to something like e-commerce or privacy, online privacy, I think there needs to be some standards that are about around the country. Um, for one, it's actually better for business because now you don't have to, especially an e-commerce company. Think about it, you have a store and you're selling to 50 states. Now you have to deal with 50 different privacy rules. That's nuts. Those are things that need to be fixed from that point of view. I'm glad to finally hear that at least from the White House, that we're bringing down to bear on some of our adversarial tendencies. I think, unfortunately, it's pointed in one direction a little bit too much. There are definitely some other aspects of, for example, the corporate espionage that takes place on behalf of for China that we need to also be concerned about as well. So the if the Russian bear, they run into a China shop and they break things. The Chinese panda is a little bit sneakier about it and doesn't make as much noise. And so those are I think, from a governmental point of view, that we can all do a little bit better. Um, from a personal business point of view, we all have to be aware and raise our games. Ultimately, the tools are getting better. We're able to, they're getting, not only getting better, but they're getting cheaper. And ultimately, that's going to help us. But it's not just technology; it's people. People have to be engaged in their own solution. And your provider and your software is not going to care more about your business than you are.
That makes total sense, especially the bigger they get. A company like Shopify, you got a lot of other people. I mean, there's some high profile people they've kicked off their platform. So clearly there's some concerns that they don't share with me. So, and it was funny too. I didn't even mention like a digital rights management, coming from the game background, there's a whole other can of worms about how, users who do obey the rules and obey the law actually tend to be the far more inconvenienced in the interest of protecting them. So that's a whole other thing. I just wanted to give that a brief bit of oxygen. So, door is definitely open. It was great to meet you today, and I'd be more than happy to have you back and carry on this conversation.
Would love to be back.
Perfect. Well, our wrap-up question is the economics tradition is, if you have any parting words of wisdom, not that we haven't spent the last hour sharing wisdom, but Chinese proverbs, stuff like that. Anything you enjoy sharing, you're welcome to. And then let the audience know how they can reach you. And I especially want them to check out your blog because I went through it and there was a lot of great takeaways that we didn't even get into today.
Especially if you're a very, very small business, I would guess that most of the companies that are many of the companies, like anything, that are dealing with Shopify are probably fairly small, although there's some large retailers that use it as well. But there's, if you're very small, you start from the basics. Look at the basics. You talked about hygiene. There's a cyber hygiene. We talked about keeping your computer up to date, making sure you're smart about the passwords that you use to a multi-factor authentication, back up your data. Unfortunately, we see a lot of companies take risks with their own and their clients' data, and thinking that's going to cost too much to protect themselves. And the truth is that there's ways that you can do that. Whether it's, and most companies can just start with talking to their local IT company resource to say, hey, I want to do better about protecting myself. What am I doing wrong? Giving me an outside look, get an assessment done. It could be something as it doesn't have to be a full on penetration test. You're not going to do a penetration test against Shopify. They'd kick you off. But let's have a conversation about my business operations to see, poke some holes into it, have another set of eyes. That's always going to help you out. And then finally, it's not how you defend your attack successfully. There's no way you're going to defend every attack. It's, respond and recover from that. That will determine if your business is going to survive something that happens, or be part of the statistic that 60% of small businesses fail after a successful breach.
Wow, that's a sobering stat, but it's really important to keep in mind. And so with that, so just to reiterate, where can the audience discover more about what you do and what you're up to?
Sure. You can find me on Facebook and LinkedIn. On LinkedIn, Raffi Jamgotchian. The business is triadanet.com, and the blog is there as well. So we write about security issues, security news, and things like that.
And like I said to my audience, I had the privilege to go through it and prep for this, and there was a lot of really great information in there. So well worth the read. And with that, Raffi, it was great to have you on the program today. I learned a lot. I think this is a really important episode, and I hope everyone has had their notepads out. I'll put that in my intro. All right, with that. To my audience, as always, thank you for being a part of this. It is an honor and a privilege to collect this information and provide it to all of you. Take care. We will check in soon.
Looking for that passerby, or it could be that they're focusing on a niche market at something like the alt.
Hey, this is Joseph from Ecomonics. Just wanted to thank you for being here and for giving this content your time and attention. I hope you learned something. I can say with certainty, I have learned something with every episode that I have done, and I don't see that changing anytime soon. There's a couple of things you can do to help us out. If you want to check out the audio content, we are available on all major podcast platform distributors. And while you're there, give us a 5-star review. It helps a lot. And while you're here on YouTube, there's a lot of things you can do to help out as well. It's not going to take very long. Subscribe to the channel, hit the like button for this episode, and hit the notification bell so when we have new content for you, it's going to be at your doorstep ASAP. Lastly, this podcast is created by Debutify, the best Shopify template available. It is 100% free for you to start, and it can change your life. It can make you so much more free than you are right now. So if this episode wasn't enough to convince you, I think a few more might do the trick. So have at it.